Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm ENDA COLL. This is Calling It. So I'm looking back at Celtic's 3-1 defeat to AC Milan in the first group match of the Europa League. A pretty decent display from Celtic overall. The 3-1 is a bit flattering to AC Milan. It was a decent performance from Celtic, but they just didn't have enough on the night to get past AC Milan. So I'm going to look through the player ratings, who played good, who played badly, and what changes we need to make for the weekend. So let's get into this video. So as I said, Celtic did actually play pretty well last night. The first 20 minutes, it looked like Celtic were the better team. They looked like they were going to score. They just couldn't break down AC Milan, and that is the nature of these games. You're playing up against a team that are currently top of the Serie A and haven't lost a game. They're going to be difficult to break down. They're going to have better defenders, but Celtic looked like they were actually going to break them down. They just couldn't get that final pass into the box or get that final shot away to get a goal, and unlucky for them, they went 1-0 down, they went 2-0 down, heads dropped for a while, then they came back into it again. I thought they were going to get a draw out of it, but the third goal really killed the game. In the end, AC Milan probably deserve to win overall because they are the better side than Celtic. So looking at the player ratings, who played well, who played badly, just an explainer of where I'm getting these ratings. I don't usually start from 7 as most papers or most people normally do. I start from a level 6 because I think a 7 is too high. If you see a player who played to a 7, then I always think he actually had a pretty decent game. So I start from a 6, which I think is the average performance. You don't define an average performance as a 7. A 7 for me is above average. So just in case anybody is wondering why the numbers are so low or a little bit different to what they are in the paper, that is why I start from a 6, and then depending on the performance, depending on whether they do something good, whether they do something bad, that's where I get my rating. So I'm going to go for Barkas and goals. He is rated at a 5. Reason for that is that he conceded 3 goals. Probably couldn't have did much for all 3 of the goals, but at the end of the day, you're a goalkeeper. Your job is to prevent those kind of situations happening, and he didn't do much to prevent those goals going in. So I'm going to go with him as a 5. I don't want to be overly critical of him, but also it's 3 goals. You can't really give a goalkeeper a good rating if they concede 3 goals in a big match like this. And you just wonder what Fraser Forster would have done in those situations. He just turned into some sort of different animal when the Europa League or Champions League came around. So Barkas gets a steady 5 for his performance last night. Jeremy Frimpong was actually one of Celtic's best players last night. I thought he was absolutely excellent in the first half. He got forward really well. He made Theo Hernandez, who's one of the best fullbacks in the world at the minute, look like an amateur. And I thought Frimpong was absolutely excellent. And his pace is so scary. He is so fast. There was one stage where he burst forward past about 3 AC Milan players. He did lose the ball, but then he was back at the Celtic box before the attack happened. And that's where his strengths are. But his weakness is definitely his final ball, his final cross. When he gets into the box, getting that ball across to an actual Celtic player is a real weakness of him. And it reminds me sort of Aidan McGeady back in the day, where he would do something amazing down the wing, get past about 3 players, use his pace to burst past these players, and then his cross would hit the first man, and it would be such a frustration. And you just hope that Jeremy Frimpong can improve that part of his game, because he can be a real player and a real danger for Celtic going forward if he can. But at the minute, his dead ball is just letting him down. But he gets a 6, which is an average performance. He is part of the defence that conceded 3 goals as well, so that's where the points kind of come off. He would have been probably a 7 had Celtic managed to get a draw out of this game, but he gets a 6 from me. Shane Duffy is a 4 because I think that was his worst performance in a Celtic top. This was his first time playing at this level in the Europa League, and it wasn't a good display at all. 3 goals conceded, and 2 of them could be put towards his direction, or 3 of them could be put towards his direction. He was out of position for the first goal, and he allowed Greenwich to get in between him and Welsh. He was in a bit of confusion with McGregor for the second goal. He should have closed down the defender at the edge of the box. I think he was waiting for McGregor to come back and try. I think he thought that McGregor was actually going to try and tackle the player at the edge of the box rather than get back into the box. And for the third goal, he was caught out as well. He looked a little bit leggy at times. He didn't look like he had the pace to get back. And positionally wise, he was actually quite poor last night, which is unlike him, to be fair. I think he is coming into that Celtic job as a person who was seen as the saviour, and I do on this channel thought he might have been a little bit better than he has been. He does need to improve. I said going into this game that he's not in great form, and last night he continued that form. I thought he was really poor, so he's getting a 4 from me. Christopher Ajer is another man who was part of that defence, so he gets a 5. I didn't think he was bad. I just thought, he is part of this defence as well. A lot of the blame will fall on Duffy because he was an obvious player who was obviously out of position and obviously caught out for the second goal. But Christopher Ajer is part of this defence as well, and if you actually look back at the game, he was caught out of position quite a number of times as well. Laxalt was left isolated at times down that left wing back position, and he needs to improve as well. I thought he was bang average last night. He wasn't bad, but a lot of the blame will fall on the other defenders, where he will probably escape a lot of the criticism as well. And this man, Stephen Welsh, 20 years old, marking Zlatan Ibrahimovic for large parts of the game. I thought he was quite good at times, but again, he was also out of position for that goal, and he got caught out by Krunic in the air. He was sitting a little bit too deep. He allowed him to get into the box, and he was caught out, so he gets a 5 from me. I thought he was pretty decent for a 20-year-old playing in the Europa League against one of the best strikers in the world. I thought Stephen Welsh, he didn't cover himself in glory, but he was fine. Like he did what you expect from a 20-year-old in Europa League. So I do think that he was a 5. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either. Now Laxalt was again one of our better players. He looked a little bit leggy in the second half. I think that's why Neil Lennon took him off. But I think he deserves a 6 on the night. He tore Diego Dalot apart at times down that left wing. His delivery is excellent now. That's one thing I do want to note about him. When he beats a man and gets a cross in, his delivery is excellent. There just wasn't anybody in the box last night trying to get on to the end of his crosses. He will improve as time goes on, as he gets more game time. I do think he's going to be brilliant for Celtic when he actually gets up to full match fitness. I don't think he's up to full match fitness so far, but I think he'll be a real asset for Celtic down that left wing back position. The only issue is whether we stick with this 3-5-2 formation. It wasn't working last night, and I don't think it's going to work going forward. So will he be playing as an orthodox left back? He probably will going forward, so I don't know if that's going to hinder his development as a winger or a left wing back. But I do think last night he was excellent. He gets a 6 from me. Scott Brown. Now, we said going into this game that Scott Brown didn't have the legs, probably passed it, and doesn't cover enough ground. And all three of them came to be true last night. He was poor again last night. He didn't track enough. He was at fault for the first, or partly fault for the first goal. If you look back at that goal, he's running back. He's looking over his shoulder to see where Krunic is, and he sees him, and he doesn't track him. He goes out to the wing, tries to give Laxalt a bit of help. Yet I think it was Brahim Diaz was cut in on his left foot and got the cross in, and so Scott Brown goes out to close him down, doesn't close him down properly, leaves a man free at the edge of the box. So what are you doing as a centre defensive midfielder? That's your job, to prevent those things from happening. So he was partly at fault for that goal as well. I didn't think he contributed much going forward, and in terms of breaking up play, I thought he was poor as well. So he gets a 4 from me. A really poor display from the Celtic captain last night. And this man as well, Olivier Ntcham, I do think he was mainly to blame for the first goal. There's three or four people mainly to blame for that first goal. It was Stephen Welsh for getting caught out in the air, Shane Duffy for being too close to Welsh and allowing Krunic to get in between them, Scott Brown for not closing down the player on the wing getting the cross in, and Olivier Ntcham, because if you look back at this goal, he follows Krunic until the edge of the box and then lets him go into the box by himself unmarked, and then he gets the header. So I think when you're looking at the blame game here for that first goal, I think Ntcham comes first because he let the player get into the box in the first place. Then you go Scott Brown for letting the cross coming in. Then you go Stephen Welsh for not beating Krunic in the air, and then Shane Duffy for being a little bit too close to Welsh and allowing that cross to get past him in the first place. So I think Ntcham was poor last night. Again, didn't offer much going forward. He was a little bit sloppy in possession and takes too much out of it at times. So he gets a 4 from me as well. And Cal McGregor as well. It's 4 all rounds for the midfield last night. I thought it was a really puzzling display from everyone. That midfield trio is just not working for Celtic at the minute. And Cal McGregor, again, you're looking at that second goal and you're wondering, number one, why is he not going to the man on the edge of the box? And number two, what's he doing running into Shane Duffy? So again, you're looking at the blame game. It's a hierarchy of Shane Duffy not closing the man at the edge of the box, but I think he thought that Cal McGregor was going to close that man down, and then Cal McGregor for confusing the whole thing and getting involved and firstly not being there. So I think he was mainly to blame for that second goal. Didn't do much to break up the play, didn't do much going forward either. So I think it was that's a really disappointing display from Cal McGregor. Wasn't his best display. I thought he's been fine this season, but that just wasn't a good performance from the Scotsman in midfield either. Ajeti up front, again, he was fine. He was a bang average display really in the first half. Offered a little bit in terms of link up play in the first half, in the first 20 minutes. But again, when it came into the box, his final delivery or his final shot wasn't great. He scuffed a few shots in the box and probably could have did a little bit better. But overall, it was a fine display. I thought he offered a lot going forward. I thought he offered a good option in the box. But it was just that final shot just let him down last night. So he gets a 6, a bang average display from Albion Ajeti. And Lee Griffiths, I mean, it was a big match to throw him in terms of his fitness. It was nice to see. He did quite well. Again, he's sort of like Albion Ajeti. It was a fine performance. It was nothing special, nothing terrible. He offered a good link-up play again. Probably could have offered a little bit more in the box in terms of coming out to the wingers and getting the ball and driving into the box, and maybe even being that option for Frimpong and for Laxalt when they got the ball at the wing, maybe running to the front post and giving them an option there. I thought he dropped back a little bit too much in the box and waited for the ball to come to him, but that'll come. I mean, I like Lee Griffiths. I think he's a natural goal scorer and he will come good. He's had a few personal issues as well, so I'm rooting for him to come back and be the player that we know him to be at Celtic. So that concludes the player rating. So just a recap of where players are at. Barkas gets a 5, Frimpong gets a 6, Stephen Welsh gets a 5, Duffy gets a 4, Christopher Ayer is a 5, Laxalt is a 6, Brown, McGregor and Incham, all three of them gets a 4. And then Ajeti gets a 6 with Griffiths up front, who gets a 6 as well. Other than that, the subs that came on, El Yunusi gets a goal, so I thought he was excellent when he came on. I thought Ryan Christie was brilliant when he came on as well. And you do have to sort of take into account the Celtic were missing Ryan Christie and missing Odsonne Edouard last night. They're two solid players that really could have been a great asset to Celtic last night. And then Tom Rogic, great to see the Australian man back and fit and playing for Celtic, because he's one of my favourite players for Celtic. I think he's been misused for almost all of his Celtic career so far, so it's brilliant seeing him back, and I thought he was excellent again. He's such a classy player when he gets the ball. He doesn't panic, even when there's 3 or 4 AC Milan players closing him down. He didn't panic on the ball. He just gets it, lays it off, takes on a player, draws in players before playing the pass. I think he's a Rolls Royce of a player, and if he can get back to full fitness, he'll be a real asset for Neil Lennon, either off the bench or another option to start if he decides to change formation and go with the 4-2-3-1 formation and play him as a number 10. I think he is the most natural number 10 that Celtic have in the arsenal at the minute, so I think he'll be brilliant going forward. So that was the player ratings for Celtic's 3-1 defeat to AC Milan. What did you think of the performance? Did you think Celtic deserved to get a draw? Did you think they deserved to get beaten 3-1 by AC Milan on the night? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm almost at 300 subscribers. I do want to get to 500 subscribers, so I might have a giveaway in the next couple of weeks for people to subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we can bump my subscribers up to about 500 and get some more Celts on this channel. I'm ENDA COLL. This has been Calling It. Thanks for watching.